This week in the business of tech, digital transformation may not be all it's cracked up to be. An MSP breached, taking down the UK's NHS. To cloud or not to cloud, that's apparently a question for AI and ML. Remote work hits equilibrium, as salaries do too. Are we at a tipping point for security fears? And Krebs calls for a US digital agency. All these stories and more. Hit those like, subscribe, and the notification bell, and help us pay the bills. And here are this week's stories. Digital transformation. Listeners know I've never been a fan of the phrase, so when several pieces hit simultaneously, I noticed. First, is digital transformation relevant in a recession? Tech Republic looks here, noting a survey of CIOs by Morgan Stanley indicating that nearly 10% plan to increase spending on digital transformation in 2022, a slight decline since 2021. The piece highlighted the initiatives that fall into three categories. First, cost reduction through new technologies like cloud migrations or automation. Second, enhancements of current products or services through digital technologies like an app that pairs with physical product. Or third, creating operational flexibility like remote hybrid working tools. ZDNet reviewed IDC's predictions on digital transformation. Here are two highlights. By 2023, 90% of worldwide organizations will prioritize investments in digital tools to augment physical spaces and assets with digital experiences. And by 2025, 60% of organizations will capitalize on disruption with an enterprise and ecosystem-wide approach to automation, leveraging model-based enterprise concepts and low-code, no-code platforms. But Protocol argues that customers are not seeing the rewards. Quote, air travel is abysmal. Healthcare is still stuck with one foot in the past. Store shelves are still stocked with an overabundance of items no longer in demand. Supply chains are a mess. Algorithms are still bad at suggesting things we like. And customer service largely remains an infuriating experience. We can't even get accurate credit scores. So what have billions of dollars in IT investments meant for consumers? It's a tricky question to answer, as many of the changes to date, apart from a massive proliferation of apps, are likely invisible to the end consumer. And a lot of investments are focused on internal improvements that might cut operational costs, but do nothing to improve customer interactions. And here's another passage. But all the promised IT investments were at least supposed to position businesses to better respond to market-altering occurrences. Instead, companies have no idea what consumers want. And it's paved the way for a new cycle of vendors that are all promising the magic software fix. And finally, it is still early in the journey among most large businesses to become tech-driven, which helps explain why results have been lackluster. These are very difficult migrations, and companies are simultaneously facing a weakening economy, shattered supply chains, and ever-worsening global relations. But the never-ending cascade of society-altering events isn't slowing down, and that means businesses have to learn to adapt faster. If done thoughtfully, tech can play an important role. Now, why do we care? It can be true that this digital transformation will happen and deliver business value, while at the same time, customers feel none of it. That's not optimal to be sure, but it's possible. I've hated the name because I don't view digital as a single-time transformation, but instead as an ongoing process and continual need. Transformation implies it's one and done. It's not. And this is where I believe smaller companies can thrive, their ability to be agile and adaptable. Rather than a single monolithic transformation, customers and their providers simply view it as the strategy and direction and continually invest and move to digital. That plan feels far more transformational. Well, with a headline like this, I couldn't miss it. UK NHS suffers outage after a cyber attack on the managed service provider. The MSP, Advanced, delivers a client-patient management system used by 85% of NHS 111 services and was taken offline by the attack. Public access to Advanced's status page is now blocked by a login form allowing access only to customers and employees. Advanced Chief Operating Officer Simon Short confirmed that the incident was caused by a cyber attack detected on Thursday morning. Bleeping Computer noted that while no details were provided regarding the nature of the cyber attack, based on the wording, it is likely that this was a ransomware or data extortion attack. Why do we care? Messing with the NHS in the UK is a big deal, so don't dismiss the bad PR on this one. The BBC covered it. This weekend, I have an interview with a corporate espionage expert, and one of the directions he focused on is how small suppliers are avenues to larger prey. This screams that, putting that MSP right in the crosshairs. And that's why we care. The new nominee to be U.S. Ambassador at Large for Cyberspace and Digital Policy at the Department of State, Nathaniel Fick, laid out his policy agenda in questioning from the Senate Foreign Affairs Committee on Wednesday. Quoting the record, on the policy front, Fick said he would seek to strengthen adherence to the framework of responsible state behavior outlined by the United Nations regarding malicious behavior online, promoting a norm-based model to deter bad behavior. He also said he would promote a digital economy where U.S. companies and the people that work at them can compete, including protecting the free flow of data access across borders while protecting users' privacy and the integrity of their information. Lastly, Fick said he would champion a positive vision for digital freedom that countered a rise in digital authoritarianism. To pursue those policies, he planned to focus first on building a team and culture inside the State Department that views fluency and expertise in technology as a critical skill set. After that, he would focus on asserting the State Department's place in cybersecurity policy and other global digital security issues. Why do we care? It's a big deal to have a dedicated ambassador focused on digital norms around the world. Sure, he's a nominee, so not confirmed yet. It's the position I consider important, and as the first nominee, he will be setting the tone and direction for others to come. Of course, protecting users' privacy does require that the U.S. actually define what privacy is. Will we get a federal privacy bill? Maybe. According to findings released Thursday, nearly 9 in 10 companies surveyed for the forthcoming Spiceworks Ziff Davis 2023 State of IT report are planning for a recession in the next year. Of course, unemployment among tech professionals fell to 1.7% in July, according to a CompTIA review of U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics data. The number fell 0.1 of a percentage point month over month and is close to the all-time low rate of 1.3%, recorded in May 2019. Amid job gains in the economy overall, which more than doubled expectations, tech occupations expanded in July, with employers across industries adding an estimated 239,000 positions. The previous month saw the economy shed 17,300 tech positions as hiring cooled. This point for unemployment is the lowest mark since the turn of the century. According to data from the Atlanta Fed's Wage Growth Tracker, wages grew 12% for the youngest workers in June, more than twice the rate for those between 24 and 54. Younger Americans are outperforming the old even in absolute dollar terms. A 3.7% raise on the over 55 median weekly wage of $1,240 is 46%. A 12.5% increase on the under 24 median salary of $707 is $88. Why do we care? I'm shifting my own language from recession to unease, simply because I don't want this to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. My advice to focus on fundamentals is a starting point, and admittedly, always good advice. One of the items to focus on here is the continued tightness of the market and wage pressures. While there's a lot of noise about tech layoffs, it appears confined to big tech and companies that probably grew too fast. Listener, that is likely not you, especially if you're in services. Combining this with last week's insights from CompTIA ChannelCon, you may need to be a lot more flexible on hiring as you look to entry-level positions, both paying more than you would want and hiring and training rather than expecting a perfect match. I do love conflicting data. A survey of 452 IT and security professionals conducted by the Cloud Service Alliance finds that more than a quarter of organizations, at 27%, are already using confidential computing platforms to better protect data, with another 55% planning to follow suit in the next few years. The survey also finds that more than 2/3 of respondents report that their organization already hosts sensitive data in the cloud. However, less than a third, 31%, were not confident or only slightly confident about their ability to protect sensitive data in a cloud environment. In comparison, another 44% said they were only moderately confident. Meanwhile, Protocol is highlighting AI and machine learning that's moving away from the cloud and how these companies are spending less and getting more performance. Companies shifting compute and data to their physical servers located inside owned or leased co-located data centers tend to be on the cutting edge of AI or deep learning use, Thomas Robertson said. They're now saying, maybe I need to have a strategy where I can burst to the cloud for appropriate stuff. I can do maybe some initial research, but I can also attach an on-prem workload. Another big reason highlighted, bandwidth. Why do we care? If you ever wonder why I talk about bandwidth a lot, well, there it is. At first glance, the cloud data seems messy, right? Things go in the cloud, but things are coming out of the cloud. Confusing, except it really isn't. The right tool for the right job. The cloud security issue is a red herring because those cloud providers are long since capable, and if there is any issue, it's generally user error, particularly in configuration. The AI/ML angle is the exact use case for IT services. There are many variables and workloads, and while I tend to default to the cloud, I'll leave space for doing IT right. If you don't have enough bandwidth, on-prem makes sense. Analyze the need and assign things to the right design. Or move, there's that too. This one feels important. A U.S. Federal Circuit Court has confirmed that AI systems cannot patent inventions because they are not human beings. The ruling confirms the U.S. AI patent law's status quo and shores up what is slowly consolidating as an international legal opinion. The EU's Patent Office and the Australian High Court have made similar rulings in recent years. And also, in news from the government, NIST has published a draft update to its Healthcare Cybersecurity Guide, Special Publication 800-66R1, quoting from Mondak. The document's main body contains significantly expanded risk assessment and management guidance. The appendices have been largely reworked and feature extensive resources to aid in performing risk assessments, especially about threat modeling. Perhaps the most useful new feature in the revised draft is Appendix F, HIPAA Security Rule Resources, containing more than 10 pages of categorized and summarized links to other resources in 17 different categories. The revamped Appendix F essentially offers a guided tour of an extensive library of healthcare cybersecurity resources. And in the news we've been tracking, the EU is opening an office in Silicon Valley to help tech firms understand how the new rules apply to them. Why do we care? Oh, Europe, what good diplomacy to come over and help tech obey the law. The Europeans are on their game. Tactically, NIST's releases are of note for healthcare IT specifically, and likely broadly for any IT services company. Get downloading. The U.S. court ruling continues the trend. At least we can't auto-generate patents. Bit of sanity in my mind. Tactical, yet quite relevant. Despite the earlier sense they would, Microsoft will not be blocking Office 2016 and Office 2019 customers from connecting to Microsoft 365 back-end services after October 2023. As the details from ZDNet outline, Office 2016 and 19 will continue to work with Microsoft 365, Office 365 back-end services, at least until those Office editions are out of support, which means October 2025. They just might or might not work well, especially starting next year, so it's a use at your own risk situation. Why do we care? It's blocking and tackling, but managing all of those support dates is still a thing, so I mention it. Or just go SaaS. Sure does simplify things. Are you struggling with your internal processes? Babysitting employees? Constantly putting out fires? Eureka Process is here to help. With strategy consulting to help with your strategy, process help for building and optimizing tools, and V-screening to help with your talent hiring, MSPs trust Eureka Process. And the best part? Resources right on YouTube. Visit youtube.com/Eureka Process and subscribe and learn, because growth is intentional. 57% of Americans vacationed in the past year, the highest rate since 2009, per data from Alliance Partners USA. But look deeper, and here's what you'll find. 60% of U.S. professionals are working more on vacations, according to consulting firm Korn Ferry. 63% are taking shorter than usual vacations. 37% log on multiple times per day during vacations, up from 19% in 2021. No better way to unwind than Microsoft Teams at the beach. What about other trends? In 2021, Microsoft Teams saw a 42% rise in chats per person after regular work hours. Flexibility is great. People save nearly 6 hours weekly by commuting less, but they're also spending half of that time doing more work. And let's not forget, in the US, 23% of private sector workers don't even get paid vacation. It's hard to relax if it means no dinner. That from Axios. Now let's layer on a bunch more worker news. With all this talk about remote work, it seems we've hit equilibrium. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics' latest report, just 7.1% of American workers teleworked because of the pandemic in June, down from 15.4% in January. That figure has been hovering around 7 to 8% since April, suggesting we've hit an equilibrium point. Remote work rates vary significantly based on industry. Per BLS, 20% of information workers, 19.7% of those in finance and insurance, and 17.6% of those in professional and technical services worked from home last month. That aligns with a June Eden report. Nearly 2/3 of IT employees reported that the inability to work remotely is a job deal breaker. According to the report, respondents who valued flexible work environments cited the ability to handle at-home and caretaking responsibilities as benefits. For tech employees, flex time and slack time provide the flexibility they crave. And for tech leaders, flexible work initiatives keep employees happy and productivity high. Skills demand appears to be shifting too. Way down annually are web development needs, messaging and communications, and up are management and process skills. A Gartner study shows that 51% of organizations plan to raise wages only for top performers in the face of inflation. The study polled 130 CEOs and CFOs, asking how their organization plans to adjust compensation for salaried employees to match inflation. The business leaders had to choose between all employees or top performing employees. They also had to choose between selected markets where inflation was the most severe or all markets. Nearly 25% of respondents voted for the most restrictive approach, offering pay increases to only top performers within selected markets. Another 27% voted for raises for only top performing salaried employees in all markets. In an analysis by Insider, it appears pay is also normalizing across regions. Salaries in Washington, D.C., which used to be 15% lower than those in San Francisco, are now virtually on par with the Bay Area. And thanks to big compensation jumps in Boston, Los Angeles, Boulder, Chicago, Austin, and Denver, salaries at tech startups in those cities are also within 10% of San Francisco's levels. The great salary convergence is playing out across the white-collar workforce. In Austin, Charlotte, and Milwaukee, salaries for office jobs have soared by 20% or more since the end of 2019, according to Laboric, another compensation platform. During that same period, more than a dozen other metropolitan areas have seen pay jumps in the double digits. In San Jose, meanwhile, white-collar salaries in the heart of Silicon Valley have barely budged, increasing by 1.7%. Let's also note the piece by Insider about the increase in firms that do layoffs for other companies. Those layoff specialists say business is booming. Why do we care? Remote work equilibrium seemed like an important data point. New normal is horrible phrasing, but equilibrium seems viable. At this point, organizations fighting remote work just look dumb. Just saying. Now onto the wage data. That's the headline. Wages are normalizing too, and geography is becoming far less of a factor. You might have thought you could hire in alternate cities to save money. Nope. And despite all the noise about workers losing their power, with unemployment being what it is, it doesn't seem to be the case. Those layoffs seem to be in companies that got bloated, not companies executing on the basics. For most, your planning should include that salaries are competitive and just going up. You're gonna need to solve for that. Some market data covered by the team at TechTarget. Quote, the Institute for Supply Management Services PMI, an index closely watched by investors, businesses, and other financial professionals, grew an unexpected 1.4% in July compared with the association's June survey. Based on a poll of purchasing and supply executives, the index tracks activity in several services sectors, including professional, scientific, and technical services, including consulting and computer services. Other sectors represented in the index run the gambit from mining to financial services. Another measure of IT services activity, M&A deals, continues to expand. Drakestar, a New York-based technology investment bank, reported steady transaction growth in the digital services sector. Digital services includes managed IT services, digital transformation, and business process outsourcing. Drakestar reported more than 375 M&A deals in digital services for the second quarter. Why do we care? This is my reinforcement of the previous story. The services markets are seemingly strong, and in the current weird economy, not slowing down. I'll be happy to be proven wrong on my nervousness if this continues to play out, and there's a reason for cautious optimism. I've been keeping an eye on the security space this week, with B-Sides, Black Hat, and DEF CON all in Las Vegas, and we'll see what continues to fall out from there. Cisco recently announced vulnerabilities in their Cisco Small Business RV160, RV260, RV340, and RV345 series routers. Patch away. FEMA warned that the Emergency Alert Service could be used to allow threat actors to issue alerts if not updated to the most recent software versions in the EAS encoder-decoder devices. For all the concern, IoT security fears are falling. A Journey to IoT Maturity, a follow-up to Wison's State of the Nation IoT study in 2017, shows security as one of their top 3 challenges when rolling out IoT, and it fell from 58% in 2017 to 24% in 2022, while the proportion of respondents viewing it as a technical challenge also dropped from 65% in 2017 to 42% this year, indicating fewer concerns, but still highlighting it as an issue. There are growing fears over data privacy issues. Data privacy regulation is the second highest political, economic, or social challenge for IoT adopters, with 36% placing it on their top 3, just behind the need to reprioritize spending due to COVID-19 and ahead of budget cuts resulting from less revenue during the pandemic. A combined report from TAG Cyber, JS Group, and IGI Cyber Labs focus on continuing scanning as a solution for SMBs. The report suggests that managed services providers implement an ongoing program that is feasible even if a firm's security budget is minimal. ConnectWise's new SMB cybersecurity report says nearly 3/4, 73% of report respondents agree that their organization has reached a tipping point where cybersecurity concerns demand action. Over 3/4 of SMBs report that they were impacted by at least one cybersecurity attack in 2021, a considerable increase compared to 55% of the year before. Consequently, 78% of SMB respondents say their organization is set to increase investment in cybersecurity in the next 12 months. However, a key challenge identified in the report is that 2 in 3 SMBs lack the expertise in-house to defend themselves against cybersecurity threats. Additionally, many SMBs are also feeling disillusioned or challenged with current partners tasked to provide the help they need. On cyber insurance, only 55% of the 450 Canadian and US respondents to a survey paid for by BlackBerry and Boston-based Corvus Insurance said they currently have cyber insurance. Another 28% intend to acquire coverage shortly. However, 1/3, 37% of those with insurance said their organizations aren't covered for ransomware payments. 43% said their firms aren't covered for additional costs such as court costs and downtime. Why do we care? I'll focus on insurance first. This sounds just like bedlam, honestly. Can you get insurance? Do you need it? Does it cover what you need? And in the confusion, there's opportunity for sure. It's likely a skill set many aren't prepared for, so partner up. I honestly don't know where that IoT confidence comes from. I'm also afraid I have to disagree with ConnectWise that we're at a tipping point, because you can't identify a tipping point till you're over it. Any longtime listener should have already recognized we're well at that point. If the media coverage drives action, then great, but that isn't the tipping point. And on the policy front, 2 federal agencies are looking at reporting rules for cyber attacks, the SEC and CISA. The SEC is getting significant pushback, while CISA's early work appears to be more embraced by the industry. In fact, at Black Hat, former CISA Director Krebs even called for a reorganization of the government's cyber response, proposing a U.S. digital agency, which would incorporate elements of CISA, the National Institutes of Standards and Technology, the National Telecommunications and Information Administration, the Department of Energy, as well as parts of the Federal Trade Commission and the Federal Communications Commission. Quote, "I think it's time to rethink the way government interacts with technology. We have to make an agency that's focused on empowering better digital risk management services," Krebs said. "I'm not just talking about security. I'm talking about privacy. I'm talking about trust and safety issues. We're not where we need to be, and we're falling behind, and Americans are suffering as a result." Why do we care? There's logic to Krebs' assessment here, and I'd agree we have responsibility spread into too many areas now. It's popular to diss the government, which ignores the fact that they get a lot done. The U.S. digital agency makes sense to me. Just take that SEC-CISA tension. A central ownership of the issue helps resolve it. Watch this space.
Thanks for your time and attention. Time is a finite resource, and I really value you giving me some of yours. If you like this video, you can let me know with a like of the video, and even more valuable, hitting the subscription button. My content is all free, and I use metrics like subscriptions to pay the bills, so it has real value. The content here is produced under ethics guidelines posted at businessof.tech. If you're interested in more content like this, you can get access to content early via our Patreon at patreon.com/MSPradio. It's our give what you want model where you set the value of what you think the content is worth. If you like this podcast, you can catch it daily as the 5-minute news and commentary show, The Business of Tech, available on all your favorite podcatchers with links at businessof.tech. Just hit that big blue button to subscribe. Again, thank you for taking time out of your day to listen, and I really value the interaction. If you want to say something in the comments, I do respond and watch all that, and I look forward to talking to you next time.